Hello people, everybody, welcome back to Lesh. So today we are going to be doing something a little bit different, and I feel like I say that often, but I don't know what I'm doing, so it's always a little bit different, right? Like and subscribe, by the way, just a reminder. But because for this video is going to be a tough one for me, because I have, other than one quote or two quotes, I have nothing to put on screen for this video. So you and I, we're going to get real close here, you know. There's just nothing to, like, there's the pictures from the thumbnail, and then, like, the quotes that I'm going to show you. Like, there's just nothing, I don't really have anything to show you guys. So I'm just going to be talking. So I hope you like my background set and all the different artwork, and yeah, because I get used to lock in, folks, lock in. So today we are going to be talking about the Synanon cult. I don't know how many of you have heard of the Synanon cult. I heard of it like in one YouTube video one time, and then I was like, well, that sounds intriguing. And then it's been on my to-do list to investigate this for like a long time, like too long now. But today we were like, we did it. I did my Synanon investigation, and it was and wasn't what I thought it would. It's kind of what you would think it is, but I don't know. It's interesting. I will say, nobody get too excited, because this is one of the least violent cults, I think. I don't think anybody died, to my knowledge, other than one guy, but it's kind of, it's iffy. It's iffy. So, because did he really die from what Synanon did to him, or did he just die? Who knows? All right. So let's get into it. Hopefully that was a fun intro for everybody. But so, all right, let's see. Because I just have like a Google Doc for this kind of thing, and I'm just gonna read it and comment. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really know how else to make this video. So, Synanon. It was one of the first rehabs. Fun fact, in the United States, founded in 1958 under the name Tender Loving Care, which is the opposite of what they were about. So that's a fun name. The leader and founder was Charles E. Dederich, and the thing that he did that was like special at the time was he pioneered the idea of like an ex-addict becoming a counselor, and this kind of like tough love approach to addiction. And in addiction, there's like culture of addiction, which is like doing shitty things all the time, basically. And then there's a culture of recovery, which is being like a good ass person, right? And so he kind of came up with this dichotomy of culture of recovery, culture of addiction, which is like, because this is the thing, is some of these things are like cornerstones of rehabs today, and like are actually decent approaches, but then the Synanon cults took it really off the rails. So this led to many ex-members starting their own rehabs later, and some of which are like still running today, and like not bad programs from what I can tell. And also, what was the other thing? Oh, this also spawned the what's it called? I can't think of the word now. It was in the bottom of my notes. The troubled teen industry. This gave, you know, these people started the troubled teen industry. We'll just put it like that. That's pretty much what happened. This was the first troubled teen. I feel like I got to tell the story in order, because I did my reading. I didn't watch any documentaries, because I thought it would, I don't know, or I didn't watch any YouTube videos on it because I wanted to make my own, right? But I did do like all the reading that I could on this. So I am kind of Wendigo. Like, you can call me Wendigoon if you want on the Synanon topic, because I'm ready for it. But I'm not. It's not true. That's not really showing, is what I'm saying. Or like, this is. I gotta compose. I gotta put myself to get. I don't even know what's going on. So, all right. Anyway, at first I thought it was Synanon, like S-I-N, like no sins, right? Which makes sense, because like a more extreme version of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is, I never said. Yeah, Charles Dederich was a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and then he started these Synanons when he got bored with Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't know exactly. We'll get there. We'll get there. So, but I thought it was like Sin, S-I-N. It's not. It's S-Y-N. And I don't know, it's not really certain what that means, because he has these symposium things, but symposium is with an M, right? So that'd be Synanon, and it stops making sense because it's like a non, but it's also the thing you're doing, right? Because it's like Alcoholics Anonymous, it's like no alcohol. It's pretty straightforward, but like this name isn't very intuitive. I don't really know. It may also mean syndicate, but who knows? Because they kind of were a syndicate. They were a money making machine at some point. But we'll get there. I keep saying we'll get there. Okay, and this was also a non-medical rehab, which is kind of potentially dangerous, right? I don't know what the plan was with. I don't know if they ever. It's going to come up later, but I don't think they had any. I don't know if they were giving addicts medications for withdrawals, because I don't think they were medical, so I don't think they could get medical supplies. But so yeah, it started as a rehab and then turned into like a community, which we'll get to, and then they called it a religion, and then it was a cult, and then it was a way to make money and really just take hits out on people that they wanted to. It was fun stuff. It was they just beating the shit out of people in the streets. It's good stuff all around. All right, so let's get into who is Charles Dederich? Who's this founder? Born in 1913 to an alcoholic father who died when he was 4. His mother was a devout Catholic. One day he read the book The Outline of History by H.G. Wells and became a militant atheist at 14. He began drinking soon after. He was a college dropout. Went from job to job, marriage to marriage. Went to Alcoholics Anonymous when he was 40. And, also when he was a year sober, this is fun, he took part in an LSD experiment at UCLA to cure alcoholism. This was said to be the single most experienced, if I can speak. This was said to be the single most important experience of his entire life. Okay. That was in 1957. So after that, he got heavy into like philosophy and psychology and kind of quit going to AA as much and started his own meetings, which would become Synanon meetings. So Synanon was going on for a little while. They were, and we'll get into what the meetings were. Maybe we should talk about. So, and then what Synanon meetings were as opposed to an AA meeting. Because one of the things at AA is like you don't crosstalk. Like if somebody says something, you don't like respond to what they're saying. And at Synanon meetings, they would play what's called, like they just called it the game. And it was basically the exact opposite. Members were encouraged to scream at each other. You were like supposed to talk about yourself and then basically just get criticized by everybody. It's considered attack therapy, which is, that sounds healthy to me, doesn't it? Right? That's what I want in my therapy, is to be attacked. But you were required to be nice to each other outside of the game. And it also became a way of like leaders to get, because you were encouraged to be very honest in the game, so then it was a way of leaders to get information in how to make decisions about the direction of Synanon, rules of Synanon, stuff like that. But eventually the game would turn into like a 72-hour thing, and Dederich would admit that. Is it Dederich or Dederich? I keep saying Dederich, and I'm going to go with it, but whatever. If it's Dederich, then sorry. It's harder to say. But anyway, Dederich. The CH makes me say rich, but Dederich is, I don't know. It's easier to say. I think that's what I've been saying this whole damn time, so we're just going to go with it. Whatever. Just keep it consistent. Anyway, these would turn into a 72-hour long thing, and Dederich would admit that it was brainwashing at this point and basically used as a way to get people to act the way that the cult wanted them to act. But that would be later. That'd be later. Once Synanon had been up and going for a little bit, Dederich began giving people couches to sleep on who were withdrawing from heroin. And he also kind of had this idea that addicts weren't like full-fledged adults and shouldn't be treated like adults and should be kind of babied, which is interesting because it's also tough love, so it's like, where does that square up? Oh, and he also started being called Dad at this time, which is really it's good when the leader starts going by Dad. That's always a good sign of things to come, in my opinion. As far as cults go, it's always, it's completely normal to call somebody Dad, right? Anyway. So it started officially in 1958 because heroin addicts were turned away from Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, which also gave rise to Narcotics Anonymous around the same time because of the same problem. Alcoholics Anonymous meetings were for, like, alcoholics only, and, which I guess it's not that way as much anymore, but still it is kind of in some places. But at the time, drug addicts were not welcome, so yeah, it was an alternative solution. And at first people, decided to stick around, got sober, but then decided to stick around because they were, afraid of relapsing. And then they had this community. And then, Burn Bridges made it attractive for people to stay, but then also they would give them jobs. Part of it was kind of at first this cycle of, this community was in a cycle of you're in rehab, then you're a drug counselor, then you are working for the rehab, then you're a drug counselor, and then you relapse, and then you're back in the rehab, and then it starts over. But it was just this insulated community at first. Then they kind of got nuts with it. I don't know. We'll talk about, actually the next thing is them kind of getting nuts with it. So Dederich started encouraging them to start up families. They would have these compounds. They had this compound. Well, I'm going to talk about this in the next paragraph. And they would couples would sign up for private rooms and, have their little time together or whatever they say, So, yeah, fun stuff. That's real awkward. I wouldn't want to, I'm down to have sex, but, I don't want to put my name down. That's jeez, just do it and move on. You know what I mean? Gotta end up on a list now. I don't know though. Maybe, I guess if I was in a multiple year-long rehab program and it had been 18 months and I was looking for some strange, I don't know why I just said strange. I don't know why. I'm sorry. But maybe I wouldn't mind having my name on a list. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a small price to pay for, I don't know what to say that's not going to be cringe right now. For some fucking, for some good old fucking, It's a small price to pay to put your name on a list, maybe. I don't know. I'm not in Synanon. I don't claim to be, okay? So, this started in his apartment, right? And then it got too big for his apartment. Also, in 1958, already got too big for his apartment. So they leased a storefront in Santa Monica and incorporated as a nonprofit. But pretty immediately, inspectors would condemn the building and bulldoze it. And so what Dederich did was he took his then 65 members and they went to the old National Guard Armory on the beach of Santa Monica. People weren't a fan of them living in an old armory on the beach. So 10 days later, the people of Santa Monica called the police. And 10 days later, Dederich and 3 others were arrested for treatment without a license and operating a hospital in a residential area. So, which is that seems fair to me, right? That seems fair. 25 days in jail. It's, I guess jail sucks, probably. It's worse than prison. But 25 days is, for operating a hospital, you get 25 days for that. That's kind of sick. I should start a hospital. I could start billing people. It'd be great. It's kind of a killer idea. Andy Incorporated is a nonprofit. Yeah, this guy, as we'll learn, like this guy knows how to print money. That's one thing I'll say about him. We'll find out how. This would make Synanon, when Dederich went to jail, this would make Synanon pretty popular. He got somewhat famous a little bit when because he was written about in Life magazine, Time magazine, like LA Times, and all these different news organizations are picking up the story and writing pieces on, Dederich trying to help these addicts. You know what I mean? He's just a man trying to help the addicts, and now he's being arrested in Santa Monica. It's no fair. So, reported at this time, they said that Synanon deals with, quote, addiction to stupidity, quote, and Dederich is also quoted with, and I've heard this quote, my dad says this quote, and it's a good quote, but he is credited with the quote, "Today is the first day of the rest of your life," which when it comes from a cult, it becomes scary, right? When it's coming from a cult leader, that sounds really scary. But when it's not coming from a cult leader, it can be a pretty inspiring way of like being like, okay, I can fucking turn it around. I can make a change, that kind of thing. And so it's just I don't know. It's an interesting dichotomy. Is that a dichotomy? I don't know. You get what I'm saying. It's a fun fact. But the Synanon is centered around the Synanon game this whole time. That's the main thing that they're doing. That's their main product is that's what they do as a group. You know what I mean? Like they are a community, but this game, it's turning into a community, like a utopian living space, right? Like a communistic. Because, well, we'll get there too. But it's the next thing I'm going to say. So I'll just skip. Also, this is because I know that this is very frowned upon in AA circles and just recovery circles in general. So, fun fact here: Betty Coleman would start going in and out of Synanon, relapsing and not relapsing, in 1959. She would eventually become Dederich's wife. And yeah, I don't know, that's got to be like, is that some type of rape? I don't know. That's definitely taking advantage of, because you're the owner of the thing, and she's just a patient. And like, so I thought that was, yeah. But so the main thing that, like I said, the main thing that they're doing is this game. And they have this kind of like communist society at some point. Like they can rent out this building. They get a building eventually. And it became just a communal space, a communal living situation, right? And they were a progressive group for the early 60s, because now it's the early 60s, and yeah, so they were accepting of all races, accepting of anybody, and at this point they just became accepting of anybody who was looking for a community, right? It stopped being just about helping addicts, and it became just about attracting as many people as they could. Because at this point they can kind of grow because they're going to own like mechanic shops and shit eventually. And like they're going to be all over the United States, and they're going to have a whole like real estate portfolio and stock portfolio and all kinds of stuff. So it gets out of hand fast, folks. It gets out of hand fast. That's what I'm telling you. So, and this also came at a good time so this being a place that attracts people looking for a community, right, was a very good, like, a big selling point. Can you hear my roommate pissing? I'll kill him. Was a selling point at this time because, like, people were mad about Watergate. People were mad about JFK. People were mad about Vietnam, and so it became this came at a good time with like the free love movement and the communal living, like counterculture and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, this would turn into a pretty big movement for like the middle class and all like attracting people of all backgrounds to kind of people wanted to be involved. People wanted to be involved. So, yeah. And then the kids were said to be an afterthought. They were like, yeah, Dederich didn't really care about the kids. He said that they would be like raised by the community and that would be better for them. And so parents weren't really encouraged to look after their children very much. And the kids were also put to work, which you know me, I love a child at work. But they were helping clean up after the withdrawing addicts, the newcomers. So that's nice stuff. That's nice stuff. Oh, also, by the way, at some point, everybody was encouraged. From the start, I believe, or pretty early on, shaved heads for everybody. Shaved heads for everybody. I'll put a picture of that on screen because it's not. I don't know how prominent it is in the thumbnail. I'll put it on screen now. But shaved heads for everybody, women included, just everybody. They were in a George Lucas movie because he needed a lot of bald people, and everybody there was bald. So it worked out perfectly. And again, extra money for the cult because everybody was in a George Lucas movie. And yeah, Synanon took, that money directly. So yeah, it's great. So at this point, it became harder to get in. Newcomers were interviewed by leaders and, vetted, and they were expected to cease outside contact with family and friends within 90 days. At first, the first decade, it was a 2-year program, and then people stuck around after, right? They then started shifting towards this idea that it was a lifetime program because people can't really fully rehabilitate. And basically, with the combination of attracting non-addicts, they're basically just trying to expand the group as big as they can get it at this point, right? Does that make sense? Which brings us to, by 1968, Synanon had over 1,100 members, $2.5 million a year in donations, a $7 million real estate portfolio, including properties in Detroit, New York, and Puerto Rico. They owned multiple gas stations and started advertising on office supplies with the Synanon logo as a way to make extra money. Salesmen were implored companies and corporations to buy from Synanon and save a life, quote unquote. So yeah, they're just a full money making racket at this point. They're putting their names on pens and selling them and making that's $1 million a year side business now, and they're just raking in the cash, right? Also, they had a school. They opened a school, and this school was actually sought after by wealthy people and stuff like that because of the progressive, way of teaching, way of doing things, yada yada. And so yeah, I have to leave right now, everybody. I'm gonna finish this video when I get home from where I'm going. I have to go. So I have to go to a Synanon meeting. I'm not gonna lie. That's what I'm going to do. So I have my Synanon meeting now. And after my Synanon meeting, we will be back here. I'll tell you all about my Synanon experiences. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to a Synanon meeting, but I do have to go somewhere. So we are going to have a quick ad break, and then we are going to be back to the video. That's what's going to happen. So enjoy. and I have no idea what the ad is yet. So enjoy this ad break. Thank you. Hello, people. This is your ad for your Synanon and Lesh video. We have all dressed chips. All dressed chips. So they're all the flavors of all the chips. It's all in one. There's ketchup chips and barbecue chips, but it's all on the same chip. It's amazing. It's truly incredible. We are gonna have. You can taste the barbecue. My roommate said he couldn't taste the salt and vinegar. I can taste the salt. I can taste the vinegar. It's everything. All dressed chips, folks. Now in America. They used to not be in America, but now they're in America. Cheers, folks. Thank you, Lay's, for sponsoring this episode. Use code LESH for 10% off all of your Lay's needs when shopping Lay's online. Try it. Or don't. I don't know. Anyway, back to your regularly scheduled programming, and thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Hello, people. Welcome back. I went to my Synanon meeting. It was great. I got screamed at for wearing a sweatshirt and having a mustache. I could have expected that because I knew that everybody was going to be bald, but I kind of forgot. So anyway, back to now. You remember where we were. I don't remember where we were. Last thing I told you is that they have a school, which they do. They had a school. So, as we've kind of discussed already, but officially in 1969, the mission shifted from the goal of graduation. Yeah. So they start welcoming non-addicts into the group. And this is when Phil Ritter joins the scene, who is a character kind of later. But he was one of the first non-addicts to join, and he would stick around for a while. And then this was the time when they started a boot camp devoted to disciplining juvenile delinquents. Sent by their parents in the courts. Organization used the Synanon game. They advertised it basically as a new kind of therapy, right? Which again, this is attack therapy this is classified by Wikipedia as attack therapy, which is not great. And then, middle class people started this as psychotherapy, though, because again, it's new age therapy at the time. So by the 1970s, around 3,400 non-addicts were participating. So Dederich started wearing overalls at this time, and then everybody started wearing overalls. He quit smoking cigarettes and then said everybody would stop smoking cigarettes. And that would actually save Synanon $250,000 per year as an organization to not buy cigarettes anymore. So kind of a good financial decision. In 1974, they got religious status granted and this is when things money-wise started getting really out of control. They had 12 airplanes by this time, and by 1977, Dederich had an annual salary of $100,000, which is $400,000 in today's money. Yeah, they got religious status, and this really got off the rail. It became a full business at this point, and so. And then 1977 is actually a very big year for Synanon. They started being called out as a racket, and because it's starting to get scammy, and they're getting called out for getting scammy. And this is when they shift gears into suing everybody who has anything bad to say about them, right? They threatened a Time magazine editor-in-chief, and then here we have a quote on screen. I'm going to put it on screen. Dederich is questioned about this, and he says, "I don't know what these people might do. I don't know what action they might take against people responsible, their wives, their children. Bombs could be thrown into odd places, into the homes of some of the clowns who occupy high places in the Time organization." So he sounds like Donald Trump talking on January 6th at this point, right? Like he's just like, it's hard to know what these people what levels these people will go to. Who knows? That's, Also around this time, Synanon started forming and funding its own militia, a small military called the Imperial Marines. And they also developed their own kind of martial art known as Sindo. It's Taekwondo, but Sindo. Get it? Pretty sick. I mean, name something cooler than learning Sindo, It's a lost art, probably. Because the cult's not around anymore, except for in Germany. There's still a branch afloat, but we'll talk about that later. You know what I mean? So Sindo is probably a lost art, which is unfortunate, So yeah, they started putting together an arsenal of guns. They said that they were concerned about the rising crime rate and were prepared to handle any trouble, right? But then they pretty much just began assaulting people around Southern California. So they attacked two black couples who had parked a car in a Synanon apartment building just for no reason. And Dederich would say that nonviolence was just a position, and, quote, "we can change positions anytime we want to," unquote. So that's really nice. We said nonviolence, but we'll see about that. I don't know. It's pretty cool, actually. It's kind of awesome. So, okay, rewinding to, going back to 1976, Dederich made a decision that women should stop having kids, that members should stop having kids. Women were forced to get abortions, or encouraged to get abortions, and around 80 men were given vasectomies, I think by a real medical doctor, but I'm not sure. Basically, members were endlessly screamed at for refusing to get vasectomies, and when they would give in, there was a doctor waiting in the next room to give them a vasectomy. So yeah, members were now speaking out against mass sterilization, because that's what this is. Members who weren't having it were forced to leave, basically. Phil Ritter was one of those members. Remember, one of the normies that came in early. They called them squares. The non-addicts were called squares. So Phil Ritter, who I mentioned earlier, one of the squares, he had a problem with this, and he went to the sheriff's office thinking that this was surely illegal, and it was not illegal. And then Synanon forced him not to come back, or asked him not to come back, which forced him away from his then wife and child. So, really unfortunate stuff. Great stuff, that's interesting. So, in 1977, fast forwarding again in 1977, again, big year, Dederic's wife, Betty, would die. And he was 64 at the time, but he wanted to remarry. So he set up an application process. And he picked Jenny Shoren, which was a school teacher who was 33 years younger. She was 31 at the time. And then he also decided that marriage should no longer be permanent, and couples were forced to separate and find new 3-year relationships called love matches. 230 couples would file for divorce, including Ritter's wife, which is shocking, I know. Dederich was also said to start drinking again at this time. So now we've lost all sight of anything to do with anything, right? If he's back drinking, So that's just awesome. Along with this Ritter and his wife situation, Synanon was also now directly in control for how much he could see his 3-year-old daughter. So because of this, Ritter would file a motion to be allowed to see his daughter more. But soon after, when he was walking home, he was approached by 2 men with shaved heads, and they beat him with wooden mallets, fracturing his skull. This was one of at least 18 attacks in California and 80 in total that would be linked to the Imperial Marines, including hospitalizing teenagers and beating ranchers in front of their families. So now they're getting violent. They're just beating the shit out of people for fun, for whatever. They're violent. So yeah, now that this paramilitary force is in full effect, they're, just kind of all over California doing whatever the fuck they want. So then, June 1977, Ed space Win with 2 N's. It's not Edwin, but he calls Paul Morantz, who's an attorney and writer, to tell him about his wife, Frances Wynn, who had a history of psychosis, is what was on the verge of another episode. She went to get tranquilizers, and it was suggested that she goes to Synanon because she went to a Synanon facility. She thought she was going to get counseling, but she was forced to play the game and was screamed at, right? And then shipped to a facility on a bus. Her husband went to visit her, thinking she was still in Santa Monica, but he was told he couldn't see her for 90 days. Morantz, the lawyer, discovered at the time, Synanon, check this out, had no license to practice medicine. This was not well understood by the Department of Public Health either, okay? Because they were not allowed in Synanon facilities. So I don't know if they were practicing medicine at all. I don't know if they had licenses for, no doubt that they did not have licenses to practice medicine, but I don't know if they had, prescriptions for things. That's not clear. It's not clear if she went to get tranquilizers and got tranquilizers. You know what I mean? I don't know. So, but apparently in the 1960s, when Synanon was originally charged with running a hospital without a license, right? The governor signed a law clarifying that Synanon treatment was not medical, so did not require licensing. So then, from then on, they've just been able to get away with practicing medicine without a license, basically, because it's not technically a medicine. Yeah, it's I don't know how effective a drug treatment facility can be without getting medications for people. Yeah, it's not clear, and I fear that's not great, but. So Morantz pressured them to release Frances Wynn, right? Because she was there for mental illness and not drug addiction, and this was a drug addiction facility. So they could get in trouble. And she was released, but Morantz and Synanon would become top ops after that day. They did not get along from then on. So yeah, they're top ops. Dederich has this private radio station, right? And on tape he was caught saying, on a seized radio station tape, he was caught saying that somebody should break Morantz's legs among other things. And so it's still debatable if what happened next was because of an order or just because of inspiration from their fearless leader. But later in court proceedings, there was a hit list that was, of Synanon's enemies that the Imperial Marines made that was approved by at least Dederic's assistant, if not Dederich himself. Dederich himself would say that he didn't remember much of 1977 because he had several strokes, which may or may not have been true, but all of this, so the list included Phil Ritter from before, who did get attacked. They smashed his skull with hammers, mallets, wooden mallets. And also Jack Hurst, who was a former Synanon president, and nothing happened to him, but his guard dog was found hanging, which I would say that's just a coincidence, right? Like, I feel like the dogs hang themselves all the time. You know what I mean? There's no way somebody in Synanon would go hanging a dog. That's, it's a pure coincidence that his dog was found hung, I think, and there's nothing really question on that front, in my opinion. All right, so anyway, officially Dederic's assistant made 2 directions to attack Phil in the final straw. Okay, so then the final straw was when they tried to assassinate Marantz. They put a 4.5-foot rattlesnake in his mailbox with the rattler taken off. The rattlesnake did attack him, and it did give him a blood disease, which he may or may not have died of. That's what I'm saying. That's why I say, because he lived till he was like 70-something. He did die of a blood disease, I think. And that may have come from a rattlesnake, right? So that's, we don't know if Synanon killed that man. But they got him with the rattlesnake. So, and the LAPD would arrest these guys like within a month. Or they arrested the 2 men behind the attack within a few days, but they arrested Dederich a month later with conspiracy to commit murder. And Lance Kenton, son of jazz musician Stan Kenton, I don't know how many of you are jazz fans, but he was one of the attempted murderers of our friend Marantz here. So, fun fact. And then I have something to put on screen. Dederich said, "We're not going to mess with the old time, turn the other cheek religious postures. Our religious posture is, don't mess with us. You can get killed, literally dead. These are real threats," he stated. They are draining the life's blood from us and expecting us to play by their silly rules. We make the rules. I see nothing frightening about it. I am quite willing to break some lawyer's legs and break his wife's legs and threaten to cut their arms off. That is the end of that lawyer. That is a very satisfactory, humane way of transmitting information. I really do want an ear in a glass of alcohol on my desk. I really do want an ear in a glass of alcohol on my desk. I don't know what that means, but you can read the quote. I'll leave it on screen for another second here. So he's a little bit unhinged. And, a month later, the LAPD would come to arrest him for conspiracy to commit murder. And if you're wondering, how his sobriety was going, he was so drunk he had to be taken to jail on a stretcher, which is, I don't know why you're not going to the hospital at that point. And then I don't know what the other guy, the first guy, it was Musico and Lance Kenton, who were behind the rattlesnake situation. I don't know what happened to Musico, but Lance Kenton would have a year in prison, and then Dederich would have 5 years of probation because he was old and sick, and so he got to stay out of jail. In 1978, the problem of children running away from Synanon came to light. Beatings of ex-members and opponents. The grand jury decided there was very strong evidence of child abuse and Dederich taking profits from the organization. So they were officially charged, ruled, whatever, with child abuse by a grand jury. Many newspapers were covering this at the time, and they were all met with lawsuits. However, so the grand jury finds them guilty of child neglect, right? Or child abuse. Newspapers write about this. They try to sue the newspapers. The lawsuits turn into discovery, and then as part of the discovery, Synanon has to give over internal documents that would make them look even worse. That's what happened. And this would kind of lead to the end of, this was Synanon's kind of downfall here. So in 1980, Dederich would play no contest, $10,000 fine, and 5 years probation. Oh, he was also barred from having any affiliation with Synanon. And so pretty soon after, the group lost their tax exempt status because they didn't have a leader and nobody could really fill in, right? And so they lost their tax exempt status, had to pay the IRS $17 million. And in 1984, after a long court battle with more rants, the court ruled against Synanon, finding it had policies of terror and violence and practice of diverting corporate resources for the enrichment of individuals. Okay, so they are officially bankrupt in 1991, except for the branch still functioning in Germany. And Phil Ritter would reunite with his wife and daughter 2 years later in 1978, by the way, just to wrap up that nice Phil Ritter story. So that's, I'm sorry, I'm exhausted now. But so that's the story of Synanon, folks. I hope you enjoyed. I thought it was interesting. There's just a lot of shenanigans. I don't know. It's crazy that they made so much money to me, because like they were really raking in the money at some point. Like it was either $1 or $10 million a year from their like paper company or whatever the hell. They made paper and pens. I want to find a pen. That'd be a good relic. But yeah, so I don't know. I thought that this was an interesting topic. I hope you guys did too. Remember to like the video, comment, share this video with somebody. Send it to somebody. Say, hey, maybe you'll like this video, and send it to them. You know, that'd be nice. I would really appreciate that. So, but yeah, this has been Synanon, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Oh yeah, love you. Usually I say love you guys. It's all right. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Like and subscribe. Thank you. Synanon, maybe the least dangerous cult of all time. Nobody died. Can you believe that nobody died? I don't know. Good for them. We did not kill anybody, guys. You know what I mean? I don't know. Fun stuff. Good. A classic cult situation, right? Don't you love a classic cult situation? It's lovely. I feel like I'm rambling for this outro, but I feel like I should have ended on a better point. And really, it just kind of fizzles into nothing. You know what I mean? Much like the way this video is ending. It's fizzling into nothingness. And this is, oh God. What a disaster, folks. All right. I should have stopped recording like a minute and a half ago. But I guess this is just in here for the people who love to listen. You know what I mean? People who love and Lesh, loved my ramblings, love me, whatever. Love me, folks. Love me, please. No, but, I mean, yes, love me, but, well, I don't know what I'm saying. All right, that's enough of me. I'm just playing with the camera at this point. All right. Love you guys. I'll talk to you soon. And yeah, like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Synanon. Peace.